Alright, so let's do some installation for the Mac OS X. You want to make sure you have the latest software updates that are required or that may be needed. You just want to go in and update your computer via the system preferences, as you can see, just from working with your dock down below. You can grab the software update and just take care of that. Now you will want to enable sharing and the personal web server. This is the Apache server, and this comes with the Mac OS X. We're working with 10.3. You can very easily just work with this to share documents. Just check that, and you can start and stop it. If it's saying stop here, then you know you started it. You can browse with the local host, and you can also browse via the local host and your username, as you can see here. I'll explain both methods here. It depends on what you want to do. Either way will work. We just need to make sure everything is set up correctly. You can click on these links as well to open the browser. So just do that if you need to. So that's all you need to do. Start the server. Now from here we have a few things we need to download and install. PHP MyAdmin from phpmyadmin.net is going to allow us to work with MySQL. We'll see that in the MySQL section, but you want to download the latest version. Check out the site, phpmyadmin.net. This is an open source PHP administration tool for MySQL, and it is something we're going to use to work on our databases. Now, I'm using 2.6.1 here, and then there's a few extra numbers there and letters at the end. Make sure you just read the site and download the latest one that is going to be secure, and then keep up with it. There is documentation as well. MySQL.com, this is where you're going to download the MySQL standard. This is 4.1.0. Again, download the latest stable. And then you're going to have Entropy, entropy.ch. If you go to php.net, you'll see if you click on the downloads for Mac OS X, then you're going to get directed to this site, and the person is kind enough to create the binaries here for PHP. This way you don't have to compile from the source code to compile PHP, the language itself. You can work with PHP 5.03 or 4.3.1 as I have here. You can have both installed, only one's going to work at a time, and this website, entropy.ch, gives a lot of documentation as well as a user form. So go there if you have any questions about this. It's pretty straightforward, but sometimes things don't work 100%. Alright, so when we open these up, you can open them with Disk Image Mounter. You're going to see that we have Entropy down here, MySQL, and then using the Stuffit to decompress this, phpMyAdmin as a folder, which just contains all those files there, all the files that are needed, all PHP files and configuration files that you can check out as you need to. And I'll show you what to do with that. Alright, so after you know that your Apache server is installed, then you want to install MySQL. Very easy. Click on the package to run the installer package. Simple double click. And then if you want your MySQL to start when you start up your computer, which is a good idea, go ahead and double click and install that. It's pretty straightforward, like any program. Check out the README file before you do that, of course. Check it out. Check for anything that might be something that is a concern for you, and then go ahead and install things as you see fit. From there, after that's successful, you want to install the PHP 5 or 4 or both packages. There's online documentation. I suggest you read that. It's not so difficult to read, pretty straightforward. You can just double click on it, install it. It's going to optimize your system, and then everything's going to be in place for you. Just takes a few minutes to do that. No need to restart or anything like that. Alright, so we have that installed. PHP 5, MySQL, and we're ready to do PHP MyAdmin and the Learning PHP sample files, which is going to serve as a website that you can browse. Alright, so there's two locations where we can put our files. In the library web server, you have a documents folder. This is the main Apache documents folder. Now what I did was I right click and I duplicated that. So we have a copy of it here. Copies the folder. That way you can delete everything in here and then just open up your Learning PHP, copy everything from here, select all, and then do an edit, copy, or just drag it and copy it in order to get all of these files in there. You can use the shortcut keys as well and just get them in here up top. Secondarily, you want to bring this PHP MyAdmin folder here. Make sure you're doing a copy and not just a move. You don't want to move those files there. And then that's going to be all set up for you. That's the main local host that's not your user. Secondarily, you can come in here, go to the users, Brian Max, that's the username. You can find your sites right here. And then you can do the same thing here if you want to. If there's any files here you want to delete them or move them, etc. And then you can see that's going to be set up. If you browse to the websites here that I have below, you can see this is the local host with my computer name and the little tilde there, and you can browse things as you need to. That's all set up. The second one is going to be the local host, and then you can browse things again as you need to. And then you can also browse to PHP MyAdmin, that little folder that's going to run this, and this is going to serve as the database administration for you. Open source PHP. You do want to take note of the bottom notes in red. They're just configuration settings. I show you how to do that in the MySQL database section, and it's going to work across the Windows and where you have this PHP MyAdmin installed, and MySQL works across operating systems. This little configuration file, you can check it out inside. I'm looking at BBEdit. Maybe you want to download BBEdit just as a trial if you don't have it, just because it works quite nicely. You can look in a config file, config.inc.php, and that's in your library web server. And then you have a documents folder and then your PHP MyAdmin. It just isn't showing there. And then config.inc. This is that web server documents folder that we looked at a little while ago. And then that PHP MyAdmin. Open this up, and then you'll see that if you do a search for absolute URL, this is the configuration. Pretty easy. It just wants you to put in that http:// and then the path to PHP MyAdmin that we saw in the browser. It wants you to copy and paste that into this. You can read this. You can also disable that warning. It doesn't have to be set, but if you run into problems, you might want to set that. So just do that as you want to. And this is not really a big deal, but it's really going to be auto-detected. But if it's not auto-detected, then you want to put that in there. So just put the path from the browser directly to this PHP MyAdmin that we saw when we're looking from the browser here. Keep that extra slash in front as well. And then when you refresh after you save that page, everything's going to be in place for you. And you can see this in the database section. That's all set up. And then you can browse this as you need to. That's all set up as well. And we'll just look at a couple other things here quickly. Now you may need to do php.ini configuration settings here. You can see the path directly there. User local PHP5 or PHP4 lib for library, and then php.ini. That's your php.ini file. You may need to change that to make some changes for PHP. Then the Apache configuration file, that's going to be located in private etc httpd httpd.conf for httpd.configuration file. Try saying that 3 times fast. All right, so we have that. And you can open hidden in BBEdit, and that's going to allow you to navigate to that. Just start with your hard drive and navigate in to the different directory structure. This is going to allow you to open your hidden files, which you might not be able to see unless you go to the terminal. Now, there are a couple other things as well. Now, you might have to set some permissions. You might have a couple permission problems. If that happens, there's just 2 little files that you need to worry about. These 2 files here. We'll go back in BBEdit so it's more clear, more visible. And we'll just open them. A little bit visible here. And then you'll need to go to your terminal window. That's also here in Applications, Utilities, and then Terminal. You can type those 2 lines in as is into the terminal one at a time. Hit enter on the first one, copy and paste, and then the second one. These are the 2 different folder structures that I mentioned, and this is going to set up the proper permissions. If you have a 403 error that you can't access this page in the browser, forbidden, you want to change the settings here. Sudo is going to assume the root user, the admin user. You need to specify the password. Then you're just going to chmod, change the permissions here, and you can use them as is. Everything should work for you. and do it one line at a time, hitting enter in between. And long story short, we're all set up. So you can see that it's not so difficult to get things started. Some things might come up in between, but I would recommend that you just check out the websites and check out the user forums at the particular websites, and they give you a lot of tips and tricks on how to get this rolling and working as you need to. But this is going to get you set up, and then you're going to be able to work through the example files.